right, well, first of all, thank you all for coming out and joining us on this media day. Certainly, it's important for our program to have this type of coverage for our fans, for our players. They really appreciate that. It's fun to have that, and obviously from a recruiting standpoint, makes a huge difference with the local products that we continue to put out in the field, having great success here at Wartburg. So thanks all for joining. I'll start off with just a couple of comments about how things are going here in camp, maybe the theme of camp a little bit, and then give you some rundown on some of our depth and where we're at with our team and some of the guys you can expect to see making some plays this fall. First of all, the theme. I'm sure everyone's going to have the same question I've been hearing all summer. Man, you're really going to miss a lot of those guys. How are you going to replace them, right? And so you can say that, hey, you're really going to miss fill in the blank. Could be Owen Grover, Hunter Clausen, Al McLaughlin, go down the line, Jordan Downing, all these guys that were playmakers a year ago. And so what I've charged our guys with and our team with is, hey, we all know we're going to miss those guys. We love those guys. They're great guys. They were great players. They made a mark on Wartburg football. But our goal this fall is to make sure people don't realize that they're missing, right? No one notices those guys are missing. Hold the standard. We've got a standard that's been set, and we've got the talent to be able to hold that standard. And so it's about us being the best version of ourselves and the guys that we have in our program right now, taking that next step and putting their ability out there so people can talk about them. And so that's got to be our goal this year. That's easier said than done, obviously. And so, one of the things we've been talking a lot about, I told the guys, hey, I've read a little spiel deal that I saw online that said basically, a redwood doesn't start without a seed that's never planted, right? You can't grow a redwood without planting a seed. And so we've got big goals. There's still big expectations at Wartburg, but it's going to start. We can't think that all these guys are going to step in and become Owen Grover today or become, Turbo today or whatever. What we need them to do is do the little things right, okay? Plant that seed, do the little things right, and we focus on those little things and we invest in those little things, those details, those big goals that we have, those standards that we've set here at Wartburg, we can achieve those things. And so that's really been our focus right now, is just each guy investing in the details and trying to be the best version of themselves day in and day out. And if we can continue to do that, I think we can get to the point where, yeah, hey, we're gonna miss seeing those guys around, but the product we put on the field, you won't know that those guys are missing. And so that's got to be what we're looking to do this fall. The other thing we've been talking a lot about, obviously, to get that done, just having everyone bought in and having teammates that care about each other. And so my other saying that I've had this fall camp has been, teammates are like oxygen. Okay, you need them to survive. You need them to function. Okay, and so especially in football, I've not seen any football team win a game with one guy. Okay, one guy doesn't win a football game. Football is the ultimate team sport, and so we've got to be able to rely on our teammates. We've got to be able to build that trust within our group. And like I said, your teammates like oxygen for you. Treat them with great respect, and they'll treat you with great respect. And if we can lean on each other and support each other, we're going to function at a very high level and have a chance to do the special things that we want to do. So again, those have been the themes of camp up to this point. Just trying to build that camaraderie within our group, that leadership, and like I said, challenging guys to be the best version of themselves, because we've got a ton of talent that not a lot of people know about yet. That's going to be pretty exciting to put on the field. So that's that. I'll get into next year just some of those talented people then that I want to talk about, and let's start with the defensive side. So on the defensive side, we're bringing back a nice group of veteran talent and some guys that you've probably seen in some roles with special teams or third down packages that are going to step into bigger roles. I'm really excited about our front seven again. We've led the nation in rushing defense in all levels of NCAA football for 2 consecutive seasons. And I don't think we're going to miss a beat there. You might be like, well, really? I mean, we lost Jordan Downing, our all-time sack leader. We lost an All-American D tackle in Riley Conrad and Owen Grover. And you're like, holy cow, how could you ever do that again? Well, we're bringing back Justin Greif, who was an all-conference defensive end for us last year. You probably noticed Jake Walker and Christian Nunley down the stretch in the playoffs. Both those guys had a significant impact late in the year and really dominated some games against teams like Whitewater and North Central. And so you start putting those guys with their hand on the ground up front, you're going to be still pretty darn good up there. So those 3 guys will be kind of the core of that front 4. A few other guys I think are going to step into a role. Ethan Shellhorn's been a guy from Chipola who's really been a depth guy for us, so I think is going to have a big role here. Owen Hatcher, Walker Hermeyer, and Griffin Neal, all seniors this year that have, again, been part of the last 2 seasons, 28 football games, getting varsity reps, get a chance to develop. I think you're going to see a number of those guys being able to mix in there as well. And then a couple underclassmen, Connor McDonald and Cam Stalzer, are 2 guys that have really had a nice camp. that I think are going to step into some roles here as well. So not only do we have kind of 3 guys that I think can be elite and dominant in that front, we also have some nice depth. And as you all know, if you're going to play 14 football games or 15 football games and want to win a national championship in a season, you got to have depth up front and have fresh guys playing in your front. So I'm excited about those guys. Then the rest of that front 7, that linebacker level, I think Nate Link is the best linebacker in the country that nobody talks about, to be honest with you. I think that's been the way it's been the last couple of years, and I'm looking forward to having him not being overshadowed maybe by a guy in the middle. And Nate will still be on the outside, but he's as dynamic of a linebacker as we've had in our program for the last couple of years, and he'll be leading that core. Mac Watts is another name that you've probably heard a lot in the last couple of years. Freshman year was a special teams guy for us. Sophomore year got into our 3rd down package. This year he'll be our Mike in the middle there, and really excited about having him get every down snaps. He had some big time plays for us. So he had a pick 6 against Nebraska Wesleyan last year, made some big time plays on 3rd downs, and he'll be great. Keenan Tyler is another name for you to get to know. Out of Decorah, what was his first year last year with our program, was last season. He was a special teams guy, depth guy for us, and is going to probably step in our will linebacker and be the starter there. So I really think he's got tremendous talent and athleticism to add there. And then some depth within that group, Adam Link. So that's Nate's younger brother. Adam was playing safety for us as a freshman last year, moved down to outside linebacker this year, and man, he's got some dynamic to him. We're going to be seeing him on the field. Tyler Geyer, a local product here from Waverly, has had a great camp, and I really think he's going to have a role on our team this fall. And then Colin Snicker is a guy that stepped up in the middle a little bit here too, junior, that's been, just kind of, like I said, playing our JV program the first couple of years and has had a really nice camp. So some names to look out for at the linebacker spot, again, anchored by Nate Link, and again, I think he's going to be a special talent this fall. Then our secondary, so you get into the defensive back group. This is a group that I think, we had a great year from that group last year. We got even more athletic and more physical this year. Obviously, Parker Rochford's going to be the guy everyone's talking about. He's on the East-West Shrine watch list, NFL watch list. Had the Bears and the Saints here already in our camp. Looking at Parker, and again, 15 interceptions in the last 2 years, 5 touchdowns. The guy's special. I think he might have a chance to be the best defensive player in the country this fall. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. But alongside of him then, Caleb Lamphere, started every game for us at corner last year. And by the end of the season, I think was playing at an all-conference caliber level, even though he didn't receive those honors. So looking forward to big things from him. A couple other guys in there. Thane Alexander, you saw him a lot in our 3rd down package. We're running 3 safeties out there. He'll be our field safety more than likely, or excuse me, our boundary safety more than likely this year. And I'm excited about seeing him get some more snaps. Grant Larson's another senior that's been playing a role that'll be in there at corner. Ben Parker, another senior in that group that has been a big-time special teams player for us. So some good senior leadership within that group. And then a couple other seniors that I think will kind of expand their roles. Grant McCallum, Caleb McLaurin, and DJ Witt. So really in our DB group, we're sitting there with 8 seniors. That's kind of exciting when you're bringing back that type of talent from a team that has had so much success. So I think those guys will also step in and do some different roles this year. And then a couple underclassmen, Connor Grover and Blake Jansen. Both those guys had a big role last year on special teams, and I think you're going to see them in some more of our on-schedule downs this fall. So again, we've got a lot of depth on our defensive side of the ball, a lot of talent. Again, some names that you're not as familiar with yet, but I think you're going to become familiar with here this fall, and we're going to be pretty excited about seeing those guys out there. So that's the defense. That's the defense, and we're planning to continue to hang our hat on playing as good a defense as you can play. Flipping over to the offensive side of the ball here quick, I think the strength of our offense is going to be our offensive line. We are returning 6 of the top 7 offensive linemen from last year, and usually when you can do that, if you look at the teams that are having late runs in the playoffs, they're usually pretty darn good up front. Obviously, that's anchored by Tucker Kinney, 2-time All-American left tackle for us. Same thing, Bears and Saints here, looking at Tucker as well. So when you got scouts in your camp, looking at a couple guys in your team, that's usually a pretty good sign. Some of the other guys along with Tucker in that front, we've got Ethan Stockwell and Will Conlon. We're both all-conference guys up front for us last year as well that are coming back. Will be our center. Ethan will be our right tackle. Cade Carpenter, Jason Copeman, Nate Lorenzen, all those guys played significant snaps. Obviously, Ethan, you had that knee injury. Stockwell had that knee injury last year that kind of took him out. So you saw a lot more of Lorenzen and Copeman in there. And so, again, just a lot of guys that played a ton of snaps in some big-time football games that can really get it done up front. So we're going to have some nice depth in that offensive line group for sure. A couple other seniors to mention: Ben Petlon, Isaiah Corbin, guys have been in our 2 deep for the last couple of years that will continue to be there, building that depth. And then a local product, Cole Hutz, has been a huge addition. This fall, he's a Waverly Shell Rock kid who was up at Bemidji State, a Division II transfer, and is really having a great camp. And I think he's going to really challenge, and we're going to see him playing some significant snaps up front for us as well. So I'm really excited about our offensive line. And obviously, as we'll be breaking in a new quarterback this fall, that can be a best friend for a quarterback. Obviously, we can run the football behind a great offensive line and be protected. That's going to be a big part of what happens up front. So I know everyone's going to want to hear about the quarterback. I'll talk about that in a minute, but running backs, okay? So I got to be able to run the football before we worry about throwing that thing. And obviously, replacing Hunter Clausen will not be easy, as we talked about, but we've got some guys that have got a lot of experience. Ben Bryant has been around for a long time and is a very talented back. Bryson White's a name you've heard a ton. Joey Anderson had an ACL last year. That kind of took him out, but as a freshman, had a ton of flash. And then Dawson Rudd, from out of nowhere last year as a freshman, became one of our guys that we could really count on. So, there may not be one guy replacing all of Hunter's production. It could be multiple guys. And I think that's a good thing to have, is having that depth, and we're excited about that group. And I think that's about as impressive of a running back group as you're going to see in our league and maybe across the country this fall. Okay, let's talk about the quarterbacks next then. The QBs, everyone wants to know about the QB. And right now, we're still sorting that thing out, not because we don't have a good option, because we have multiple good options. And so it's been a really competitive battle here in camp. I think we've got our Platteville scrimmage coming up on Thursday this week, and I think that's going to help us sort out a little bit more. But right now, you've got Carter Markham, I think would be obviously everyone's front runner, been the main backup for us for the last 2 years. Another North Scott product, so everyone knows how those guys have worked out at quarterback at Wartburg. But Leo Dodd is another name that's really challenging Carter right now. Leo from Janesville, junior this year. He's got a ton of talent, very dynamic, just an all-around playmaker. Riley Richards, another guy that kind of got some snaps last year in the backup role. He's going to be pushing in there. So those three are kind of your returning guys that'll be battling for that spot. And then we do actually have one first-year player, Josh Papish, first-year quarterback from St. Ignatius High School, which is out in Cleveland, Ohio, one of the top high school programs in the country. And Josh is having a great camp. Very intelligent quarterback, strong arm, kind of what you'd come to expect from a Wartburg quarterback, and certainly is a guy that I think has got a very bright future. And we'll see how he continues to develop, but I think he's going to put a little heat on those guys I talked about before him. So again, we're really excited about that group. And again, it's not a battle because we don't have anybody. It's more of a battle to, man, we got some good options. Let's figure out who's the best option. So that's where that stands right now. Our wide receiver group, anytime you can bring back your top 2 wide receivers from last year and no one's really talking a ton about them, I think it's a good thing. Carter Henry, Drake George, 2 guys that I think deserve to be all-conference performers that haven't gotten that quite yet. But you're bringing back 121 receptions, 1,641 yards, and 13 touchdowns from your receiving core last year from 2 guys. That's pretty good. Drake George, all-time receiving marks. He's number 2 in all-time in receptions, number 6 all-time in yards, and number 9 all-time in receiving touchdowns, and hasn't gotten an all-conference award yet. So, hey, it's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing. I think it's exciting. He's got a chance to continue to prove more. And so again, these guys have been overlooked or maybe overshadowed by some people, but we've got a ton of talent in that wide receiver room. And then some other guys that I think will step up for us: Jagger Schmidt, Carter Bussemus, Brock Califf. You would have heard all those names last year on the field for us. A few guys that I think have had a great camp: Justice Bachman, Dylan Swanstrom, Trey Eagle, and Caden Hughes. I think are all going to be guys too that are going to be competing and challenging, and we won't be short on weapons for our quarterbacks. So like I said, we've got a great offensive line in front of those quarterbacks. We've got a nice stable of running backs to be able to keep some heat off them, and they're going to throw to some really talented wide receivers. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we stand on offense right now. Just a matter of, again, finding out which guy is going to emerge as the top option in that group. And I don't want to overlook tight ends. Obviously, Tom Butters was a huge part of our offense last year. John McConaughey, Matt Defoe will be 2 names you're going to hear a lot. Try to pick up some of that production that Tom had last year. A few young guys: Micah Holmberg, Simon Ott, another local product Waverly kid that just transferred into Wartburg from Grandview this last spring, is playing some tight end H for us. And then Matt Hillman is a sophomore that I think will have an impact as well. So again, a group there that's got some nice depth. And then our specialists, Kayla Neal and Jackson Hoppus, got 2 all-conference specialists coming back. So I think our kicking and punting will be in great hands, and those two kids are as good as we're going to see in our league, and I'm excited to see what they continue to do as they develop this fall. So there's a rundown on the people, right? There's a rundown on the people. And as I said before, our goal for those people is if we can get all of them to pay attention to detail, be the best version of themselves, I think we're going to get to that point I said at the beginning where, yeah, hey, we're going to miss some of the leadership and some of the things that those guys brought to the table and having them around, those seniors that left. But I don't think we're going to notice that they're missing because we're going to have a lot of talent out there that people are going to be excited to see play. So that's where we're at right now, and I guess I'll open it up to you guys for questions.
Cliche to start with the quarterback question, but I will.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, you don't win a lot of games without that guy playing well.
So you've got this competition, and knowing those guys are all really good. When do you have to decide, because a Carter Markham quarterback offense is way different than even Leo, who can run quite a bit. And Carter's going to run into people not around them. I mean, he's just a completely different style. So when do you have to have it in order for Wheels to get things together, or do you just have enough in the toolbox to have both sets of styles ready?
Right. I think we have enough in the toolbox to be able to have both sets of styles ready, but to me, I would like to go into the Monmouth game knowing who we're going to run out there with in set one and who's going to be the guy. So I think we got some decisions to make, and like I said, we got another test coming up on Thursday to be able to sort that out. Does that mean that that'll be the way it is forever? Well, we got to see. We got to see how that guy performs. Just like when Niall took over in 2022, nobody knew much about Niall. Nobody knew what we were going to have from Niall, and his first pass of 2022 was an interception against Monmouth. So that ended up turning out okay, though. He became a pretty good player. So again, I want to get to the point where one guy's not just looking over his shoulder so much that he's so worried about making a mistake that all of a sudden it becomes a negative for him. And I think that's what you see these quarterback competitions out there where people don't make a decision, they kind of hem all around, and then all of a sudden none of the guys are performing at the level they're capable of. So I would like to avoid that. I can't say we're going to be able to totally avoid that, but my goal is to get to the point where, hey, hey, this is going to be the guy we're going to war with. Let's get it going, and then we'll evaluate from there. But that's a good point. Like I said, I think Coach Wheeler's creative enough, as we've seen over the years, to be able to put these guys in good positions to be successful, and I'm super confident in that.
Now, do you dump it from your mind, or do you have to keep the fact that Carter in that St. John's game had that one great pass and that one great run that saved the day for you guys? Do you try to emotionally not hold on to that, or is that big in your decision, having a guy that made a play when you guys needed a play?
No, I think that factors in, right? That all factors in. We're trying to take everything into account, what these guys have done over the years. I also think you got to look at, too, how your offense responds when those guys step into the huddle. Does the rest of your offense kind of perk up and look confident, or is it like, a little bit of that? So I think that command of a quarterback, when Niall McLaughlin stepped in the huddle, everyone knew what they were going to get. And so we're not just evaluating, did they throw the ball on target? It's also like, how is the rest of the offense performing when you're out there? We hand the ball off, or are we getting positive runs because everyone's confident that you're putting them in the best spot? I think all that goes into it. So for Carter to have a few of those things happen in some big time games, that's positive experience that I think other guys see, and they're like, okay, we know what Carter's about, we know what he can do. So yeah, so we're keeping that in this decision-making process, but at the same time, I don't want anyone to think they've got it all figured out quite yet. We want to keep that competition going because I think it's making them all better at the same time. But at some point, if you continue to have that be the way it is, it's going to probably play a little bit of mind game with them. Next thing you know, it's not making them better. So I think we got to be able to make that decision. It'll be a challenging one, but when we get there, we're going to go all in, and I think our guys will be confident with it. So.
You talked about a lot of these guys that we don't know yet. But the way a lot of games went last year, they got a lot of time, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
To your credit, is that going to pay dividends as you start this season?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I think that experience, anytime you play 2 seasons, we've played 28 games in 2 seasons. That's basically, most teams right now played 20 games in the last 2 years. So we've almost played 3 seasons worth of games in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that's a ton of experience that these guys, like you said, that maybe you heard their name, like, oh, who is that number? You had to look at your program. We're hoping that pretty soon you don't have to look at your program. You just know, okay, that's that guy. And they're making those same plays that you would have maybe done, a year ago when they hopped in there, like, oh, that's pretty good. That guy looks like he's got a future. Well, now it's time, right? That future's got to be here, and they got to live up to that potential that they've been showing. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot with getting them reps. But at the same time, like I said, it could be easy for some of those guys to think, okay, now it's my turn, so I'm just going to step in there and be the guy. Well, no, we still need them to be able to do all the little things right, have all those details. That's what made those guys before them so good, is that they were just about doing things the right way, playing and play out and being consistent. And that's kind of where, hey, we've got experience, but now we got to prove we can do it, playing and play out, not just in the third and fourth quarter when we got a big lead. So yeah.
Several years ago when Jordan Downing graduated from Waverly Sharp, nobody was talking about him being the next great D lineman. Your coaching had a lot to do with that. How do you replace Coach Vela, who's made such a huge difference in your program?
That's a great point. I didn't even get to our coaching staff, but we have had a little bit of turnover on our coaching staff this year. Losing Coach Vela. I mean, I've not been around a better defensive line coach, at least when I've been doing this thing, and so yeah, that's going to be a huge loss for us, is not having his leadership. The nice thing is having Coach Lape, who was working with our running backs. Coach Lape played D line when he first got to Wartburg in this system, transitioned over to offensive line as a player, and has seen how this system can cause offensive lineman issues. So he knows it. Coach Vela's been able to kind of train him up before he took off. So it's nice to have a guy that's been in-house, that knows how it works, that's going to kind of pick up where we left off, not have to teach him every last thing. So I think that helps, that we didn't have to go outside of our organization. And that was kind of intentional as we hired that spot, was trying to stay within with how that D-line is played and find a guy that really knows how that works. So I think Coach Lape will do a great job. He's got a great mentality, very similar to Coach Vela in terms of their approach. And I think he'll do an awesome job of getting the most out of that group. We also, lost Quentin Murphy, was our wide receiver coach this last year too, and Coach Q now is over at Luther. Okay, so I know that's not everyone's favorite, but he's going to be over there doing a great job already, doing a great job for them in recruiting, and I've heard a lot of great things about his impact over there already. But yeah, so replacing him, Matt Buckner is stepping into that role, and was a fifth-year senior for us as a wide receiver. Again, a guy that knows what's going on in there, and will do a great job. And then with Coach Lape shifting, we brought in Jawanza Holmes to coach our running backs. He's an alum, a 2014 grad of Wartburg, and excited to have him on board. So yeah, a little shuffling of the staff. Obviously, we've been really fortunate to have continuity, and I think that played a big role in 2022 and 2023. So there's a little bit of getting used to some new people doing some new things, and that's something we got to be aware of too, for sure.
And Coach, you guys will get tested early this year with 3 straight road games, including St. John's, a top 15 team ranks. And so what are some of the challenges and opportunities that schedule presents to your team?
Yeah. So first thing, we got to be ready to handle going on the road, right? It's abnormal, and so a lot of people have been like, "Hey, what are you doing with that schedule?" We obviously we don't want to play 6 road games. We tried to get some teams to want to come to Wartburg and play us here, but obviously the track record we've had here at home, it's not the most appealing game to pick up in a non-conference schedule. So we went ahead and did what we did, and so yeah, it's going to be certainly a challenge. We'll find out a lot about our team here in those first 3 weeks. One of the things I've been trying to make sure, because there's going to be a lot of buzz about game 2, but I haven't really mentioned that team's name to our guys, even though you brought it up in here, because I don't want us to overlook Monmouth College. I mean, last year, I don't know, that was one of the most competitive games we had out of all 14 that we played. They really made it challenging for us. I mean, it was tight in the second half, and they battled, and we've gone over to Monmouth, 2016, 2018, and then again in 2022, and we lost 2 of those 3 games. And in 2022, it was 3-0 at halftime. So, that first game, going over there, we know what we're in for, and that's going to be a great test. So yeah, we've got 3 really challenging games to start off with, but we got to just, right now, what I'm trying to get the guys to do is, hey, let's make sure Monmouth College, none of our big goals that we have over here will matter if we don't take care of game 1, and so we'll find out a lot about ourselves getting on a bus and traveling over there, and so I'm excited for it. I think the guys are too. Like I said, it would be easy. If we had a couple games early on that maybe weren't as challenging, it'd be easy for us to be complacent right now. Hey, 26-2 in the last 2 years. All right, this kind of just the way it goes around here. Well, no, we don't have time for that, because we got a challenging start to the season. I think it's going to be something that really benefits us down the road. Is kind of get locked in right from the start of camp and know that we got to be the best version of ourselves if we're going to take care of business to start the season. So yeah.
You don't know who your quarterback is, and you're ranked 4th in 2 different polls. I mean, that's incredible. Would you rank you 4th, knowing what you know about the Knights?
I feel confident that we're still a 4th ranked team in the country. I do. Like I told you, we're not short on talent. So when we go back out there and we play these games, the standard that we've established the last couple of years should still be everyone's expectation, and I feel confident we can hold that standard. Certainly there's a level of experience and a level of leadership that we're working to develop that, in these early games, same thing I said back in 2022 when Niall took the field, he had that talent. We knew he had that talent, but it started off slow. Our offense was slow. It was 3-0 out the gate, right? So yeah, I'm not saying everything's going to be perfect and we're just going to go out there and be just blowing everybody out, but I do feel confident that we have the talent, the leadership, the ability to be the 4th ranked team in the country right now, and I feel good about where we stand. But again, those rankings right now, we're 0-0 just like everybody else. We haven't. Our 2024 team hasn't done anything, and that's what we got to prove, is that all these people that are putting us there, that they're right. So it's been a little shift in terms of the message, right? In the past, it's always been kind of like you feel like you're slighted. Wartburg has a really good year, and then people kind of drop them back, and they want to see if they can do it again. This year, we're getting a little bit more respect, and so now it's like, hey, let's go. Let's hold that stand. Let's make those people right. The people that make those polls or whatever, let's make them right. Let's make sure they know that the standard's the standard here, and the expectations are high, and that hasn't changed regardless of who's going to suit up on Saturday.
Coach, it's probably not unique or the first time, but having NFL scouts come in, what are the kind of questions they've been asking you about those 2 players?
Yeah. So it is unique. There's no doubt. I mean, we've had guys maybe get a little bit, not at this time having scouts in our fall camp. That's not been a common thing here. So yeah, and just what they're asking about, Tucker. I mean, they like his size, frame, measurables, all kind of match up. They want to know if he can play a little bit more interior in the league. I think his height-wise, you look at tackles in the NFL are 6'7", 6'6", he's not quite that tall, but he's got the measurables, there's a wingspan, that type of thing. They like those, but just wondering about where his weight's at. Can he get a little more weight, play interior in the NFL, and still move like he does and what they see on the film? And I think Tucker just taking his game to another level in terms of dominating the competition, and I've already seen that from him here, in the fall. He came in, I think he weighed in around 292, 294 last year in the fall. He's around 310 right now and still can two-hand dunk a basketball, so that's exciting. I think he's still going to move and do the things that you'd expect Tucker Kinney to do, and I'm looking for him just to kind of elevate his game to a level where people really are like, wow, he's just a dominant, different type of guy on the field. I think you've already seen some of that. It's happened at times, but just play in and play out, making that consistent. For Parker, I think his production is really impressive. I think it catches your eye when a guy has all that production he's had in the last couple of years, and they just want to see that continue. And I think at some point, if he can match that production again this fall, it'll be getting into a few combines and just running some measurable enough times that they see his times match up with an NFL guy. But I think both of them, to me, I've been telling the scouts, I think both these guys are capable with their work ethic and the things that they're willing to do, and they want it bad enough that they're capable of being NFL players. And we haven't had a lot of those guys that I've felt that way, but these 2 guys I do think that they're capable of doing that.
Well, Saints and Bears are looking at an offensive lineman who's the best golfer. So it's a strange combination of skills, not the ones I can ever remember. What does golf have any impact on it? Because I think just the cerebral and focus might bleed over into football.
Yeah, I think the biggest impact it has is just him being a multi-sport kid in high school and really never playing offensive line until he got to college. Like he's the all-time leading receiver at DeWitt High School. So he got to Wartburg, played D-line, and then moved to O-line. So just that minimum amount of experience at O-line. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at, is they want to see him kind of take on that O-line mentality a little bit more in the way that he finishes. And but there's just so much that when you're that type of athlete, you can do all those. You can go hit a golf ball 350 yards, and you're that size and you're that athletic. That's very appealing to an NFL team, and they want to know, okay, can this guy just have that level of mean and nasty that it takes to be an offensive lineman in the NFL? And that's what he's got to be able to kind of show, I think, this fall.
Related.
Respect, 4th in both polls, but somebody in the American Rivers Conference didn't pick you to finish first. Is that strange to you, and does that stick in your craw?
I mean, like I said before, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there on the outside that are looking at who we lost and thinking like, yeah, I mean, how is Wartburg going to do all that again with those guys that were here? That was a conversation last year. All the 50-year seniors that Wartburg has, and all these. The good thing is those guys left an impact. If you have a 50-year group that can lead the way these guys did and impact the guys behind them the way these guys did, the next group is going to push to get that standard. And so I think on the outside, it'd be easy to think, yeah, Wartburg's going to have a drop-off. Hey, and I think, Coe and Dubuque were the other ones that got some votes. Coe's, their defense is going to be as good as you're going to see, I think, around the nation. They're bringing back a ton of guys on defense, and we all know what it looked like out there last fall. That was a super hard challenge. Dubuque obviously had us down 10 points. So both those teams, the teams that pushed Wartburg last year, we lose all these fifth-year seniors. I think it's natural for some people to wonder. And hey, I think those are two good teams to pick as well. Dubuque's bringing back a ton of seniors, a new coaching staff over there, a lot of excitement around the program. So, hey, I'm not here. I'm humble enough to know that it's okay for people to pick somebody else to win the league. And I'm kind of surprised that Central didn't get any votes. I mean, they're Central College. I mean, they're a pretty darn good program too. So to me, I think it is going to still be a very balanced league. The league's going to be challenging, and I'm not in any way offended if someone wants to pick someone besides Wartburg to win the league. We got something to prove, and so do all of them. And like I said, we'll play out those games and see where it goes.
You in the past 2 years have gone to the Final Four twice, and even last year had the luxury of playing at home. Are you noticing a hunger with maybe yourself and also the team of just wanting to get back there once again? Oh yeah,
once you've been to that spot and you've tasted what we've tasted at this point, you want to get. That's certainly a driving factor. But I also think you got to be careful it doesn't become complacent. It's not like it just happens. Hey, we've done it 2 years in a row. It's just going to happen again. And that's kind of what I've been getting at, making sure that we're not overlooking how we got there. Plant the seed, like I talked about, do the little things right. The big things are down the road, but we just keep doing the little things right each day. We got a chance to, grow something big and do something special, get back to that spot, and hopefully take that next step. Hey, like I said, even though we lost some guys and some talent, our goals are still the same. Our vision of winning a national title didn't go out the door when Owen Grover and Hunter Clausen and Jordan Downing, all these guys left. They left a legacy of, okay, that's what we can do, now let's push to do that. So you're right, getting there has made us even more hungry. And being on the doorstep of playing for a national title 2 years in a row is something that I think sticks with all of us, and we want to have that chance. But like I said, that's down the road right now. We got to focus on the small things and focus on beating Monmouth College.
Well, and as a coach, how do you do that? Because I played a lot of sports out of high school, and when you get that even first one of the season, it's going to keep going, and you have to keep your mind on in the moment. But everyone gets ahead of themselves at times, especially when you go on a run like that 2 years in a row, 13-1 season. How do you keep your players in the moment? One game at a time. Yeah, I think to me it's just focusing on what you control. You really can't control what's going to happen in the future and all that stuff. All you can control is what's happening. Be where your feet are. Focus on the present. Do what you can do today to make sure we get there. And like you said, that's easier said than done. But I think our guys, our leaders from the last couple of years have really set the tone on that. There's never really been that kind of like, hey, we got it made this week. Take a week off. And I think that previous leadership is carrying over, and I'm seeing that. And obviously as coaches, you got to keep an eye on it, though, because it's easy for a coach, too, to kind of start to maybe wander and start thinking about these things. But, we got to do a great job as coaches to hold those guys accountable on a daily basis. And I think if we stick to that whole nameless, faceless mantra we've had the last couple of years of not worrying about who we're playing, but just trying to play to our standard, try to be the best version of ourselves, regardless of who you're competing against, well, then good things will happen. And that's if you can have that type of focus, you got a chance to stay in the present. And like I said, be where your feet are.
I think the story that a lot of people are going to tell about your team was the last couple of years a flash in the pan, or has Wartburg leveled up like they've done in the past, going from to the quarterfinals and then out to the semifinals? That's a story I think a lot of us are going to tell. What's the story that you want told about this team that maybe we don't know about, or what perspective do you think is the story of your squad? Yeah,
I think really what I said at the beginning is the story that I want to build, because I still think there's just a lot of wondering about who these guys are and who are these guys that are going to step in. And like I said at the beginning, you're going to miss this guy. That's the theme of the season to me is, hey, let's make sure the guys that are stepping into those roles are the ones that are making people not even realize that Owen Grover's not out there. Geez, Jordan Downing, they just made I saw that play 100 times, when Jordan Downing Owen Grover, but they did it again. Holy moly, they can do that all over again. And I think if we just focus on that, if I worry about something down the road, I could say, yeah, these guys were the ones that took us to the top and all. Don't worry about that right now. Just be the best version of yourself. I think that's the other key to this thing too. I didn't say this earlier, but I also don't want these guys, I don't want Mac Watts to think he's got to be Owen Grover. I don't want Jake Walker to think he's got to be Jordan Downing. They're not going to be those guys. They need to be themselves and be the best at what they're capable of doing. And if they do that, that's enough. And they got to be able to believe that. So to me, that's what I want the story of this season to be. We had a bunch of guys that believe that what they have can hold the standard, is enough to be able to be what we think we can be. And if we can do that, and the guys really have that confidence in themselves and believe in themselves and believe in each other, then I think we're going to have a really fun season. Because like I said at the beginning, we are not short on talent. So hopefully that's the story that we tell throughout the years. Man, it would be fun to see Owen Grover and Jordan Downingham because they're good guys, but hey, we're not missing those guys. It'd be nice to see Niall McLaughlin and Hunter Clausen on the offense, but hey, we're not realizing those guys are missing out there, And so that's if we can tell that story this fall, I think it's going to be a pretty tremendous season, and people are going to be excited about the product they see from Wartburg football.
I'm asking you a question I probably shouldn't ask because your focus is on Monmouth right now, but playoffs are expanding in D3 this year, 40 teams as compared to 32 teams. Is that something you're even worried about right now?
I think it's an interesting thing. The only thing I would say about that as it was going on in the summer is just kind of how they're going to determine who those 40 teams are. There's been a lot of discussion about that. I think that's important for us coaches to be thinking about. Obviously, that's an impact on how scheduling goes. Hey, if we play a schedule like we just lined up, is that benefiting us or are we hurting ourselves? And I think that's still a little bit to be determined. There's a lot of information out there. So my only thing about that is it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out with this new system of determining those teams. It's not a lot of human element in it any longer. It's a lot like Iowa high school football. It's kind of a number that comes up from computers, and those top 40 teams are the teams that they're going to select. There's not really, much human involvement. I'm a little concerned about that. I think a lot of times you can, there's, again, without us head coaches knowing how scheduling affects that, how that you can build your resume there, that's a little concerning. But right now, like I said, we can't really do much about that. So just control what we can control. But yeah, I'm hoping that it gives our conference a chance to get more representation in the playoffs year in and year out too, because I think we deserve that. We started to get a little bit at this last year with Co getting in that large bid and us being the auto, and hopefully that's something that you'll see as more two ARC bids year in and year out.
And is part of it just take care of what you need to do and get that auto so you don't have to worry about it?
Yes, there's no doubt that has not changed. I don't think there's any comfort level in thinking, okay, there's 40 teams. Now, if we get top 2, we're just guaranteed to get in there. I mean, it's still the same thing. Win your league, guarantee that you're in. That's got to be your number one goal. And like I said, to get to that, we won't do any of that if we don't focus on game 1 first, and then we just build from there. So, but yes, expanded playoffs doesn't really change that mindset of, hey, you got to win your league to guarantee anything.
How do you guys feed, with the playoffs going deeper, one of the things that I've worried about is, how do you feed these guys?
Yeah.
D3 doesn't get much money. You guys you lose money going to playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy this year. If we were to make a run like we have the past 2 years, you would be playing the semifinal game on December, I think it's like 21st maybe this year. Yeah. So you're talking about playing that game when normally they're playing the national title, and the national title game happened on January 4, I believe it is this year. So that's a lot of, it's different. It's a lot of planning, a lot of how do you handle this. I hope we get a chance. I hope we get a chance to find out how to handle that. That'd be a lot of fun. But you're right.
Because it's usually just silly low.
We are very fortunate here at Wartburg to be supported in a way that a lot of schools aren't. Like this last year when we were playing over Thanksgiving, our food service came in on the Saturday of Thanksgiving when they should have all been off with their families and served our guys and fed our players. I know a lot of camps, I talked to a lot of coaches in the playoffs that were like, you got that? We didn't get food for the whole week. We had to figure out food for the whole week. So we're at a place that really does support us. So I know we're going to have support there. But yeah, that costs money. And so, one of the things, obviously college is going to do everything they can to support us, but our program, we've been, kind of having a little bit more push to support ourselves and raise money. And fortunately, we've got a lot of people that care about Wartburg football, and our fundraising efforts have been very successful within the program too. So just continue to have that support. I think we're going to be, it's a challenge for everybody, but I think if we get the chance to figure out what that's like, I think we'll be in a good spot just because we are very well supported here and we're fortunate. I think that's one of the things we always talk to the guys about is realizing you're at a place that really does care about your experience, and some places aren't quite like that. So hopefully they're grateful for the way that our college takes care of us.
Last question, not to dwell too much on the past, but you said playing 3 seasons in 2 seasons worth of games. A, how do you keep yourself fresh and your coaching staff? And B, was there something that surprised you along the way, like, ooh, that's not going to trip me up this next time?
Yeah. So just trying to stay fresh. One of the things we've really put a lot of stock into player freshness. I think even after making these runs, even more so. Like one of the things we invested in, maybe kind of getting a little sciencey on here, but GPS tracking systems where some of our players are actually having, it's called Catapult. They wear a GPS, kind of vest type of thing under their stuff that tracks like every step they take on the field, how much distance they covered, how much sprint distance they covered, what was their workload like in that day. And so we're able to, we were trying to do that like, anecdotally as coaches, like, okay, how many reps do we give them today? Let's back it off today and do it. Now we've got some numbers to kind of back that up and see if what we've been doing is actually working. So I'm excited to have that valuable information for us to be able to work on our player freshness. Coaching freshness, the guys got into this profession knowing what they were getting into. And so I think the fact that we all enjoy our jobs, we've got a staff that likes to be together. It doesn't really feel as much like work. But yeah, there's time we're trying to maybe adjust. Anytime we can buy a little time for our coaches to get a day here, to have a little bit of family time in there, I think that's something we're always keeping an eye on, knowing that hopefully we're making a deep run. And when we do that, their families feel like they're still supported from their dads and that type of thing. So, so that's always a challenge. And fortunately, we also have families that love football, and so they know their dad's away. They still understand that, yeah, he's doing something that's exciting for him, and we're excited to be part of, and they get a chance to be in those playoff runs. I think our wives and family members and all that love what we do just as much as we do, so that makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, you're right. It is. We talk about player freshness and all that stuff, but coaching freshness is something that's really important because the players feed off of us, right? If we're going to show up with no energy, you're not going to expect your team to have energy. And so I think that's something that's big. I think Diet Mountain Dew probably makes a lot of money. Monster energy drinks and such. Probably they see their sales go up in the fall as football gets into play. And so combination of that and just trying to find times when we can, take a little time away to be mentally and fresh and have our families feeling like they're supported. That's always important. So.
Looking for an endorsement contract?
Yeah, hey, you never know. Hey, if they're out there, we would definitely, I don't know if we can put a patch on our jersey yet like some of these MLB teams, but we'll see. So, but yeah.
Good luck this season.
Yeah, thank you very much.